here is Trump just moments ago with Bukele speaking there in the Oval Office and pointing out, that we've had a few problems along the way with all these people coming in. Lots of them illegally. Why so many?
Well, we had a terrible thing happen. We had an administration that allowed people to come in freely into our country from not only South America, but from all over the world, many from the Congo in Africa, Asia, all over the world, Europe, rough parts of Europe. And they came from prisons, and they came from mental institutions, and they came from gangs, and the gangs of Venezuela and other places. And hundreds of thousands and even millions of them came. 21 million people altogether, but many of the people that came, just a tremendous percentage of them were criminals, in some cases violent criminals. We had 11,088 known murderers. Half of them murdered more than one person. This was allowed by a man who, what he did to our country is just unbelievable. So we're straightening it out. We're getting them out. But what they did and what that party did to our country, open borders, anybody could come in. As soon as I heard that, I said, every prison's going to be emptied out into our country. That's what happened. And we're straightening it out. And we just had numbers. We had the highest recruiting numbers in the history of our country going into police departments. And a year ago, we had the lowest numbers. You couldn't hire a
biggest change.
Yeah. Nobody's
From
ever
the lowest
seen.
to the highest.
And the military now, Marines, the Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, every slot is, we have the best numbers we've ever had. We call it recruitment numbers. And we've never had anything like it. We had records on at every single level. But very important, the policemen. The policemen are joining forces now that we're having a hard time with policemen.
Okay, so Donald Trump making the point that, if you're on the side of the police, then the police are on the side of you. And don't forget, we did have a horrible time, because who the heck in their right mind wanted to be a police officer if you didn't have the backing of the governor or the president, for that matter? And it's very clear that you didn't. Remember this, I showed you this. This is a graphic here of the number of people that were crossing into this country since the year 2000. And you see how much it spiked up, like wildly so. After 2000, massively, going all the way to 250,000 people coming in. These are the people just being apprehended at the border every single month. And since Donald Trump has come in, we are down 96%. So that's pretty darn massive. It's all coming as, of course, the Supreme Court also rules that those students that are here on visas, people like Muhammad Khalil, who cause a ruckus on campus at my alma mater. I went there when it wasn't so nuts and so it wasn't so crazy. Columbia University, pretty shameful what we've seen out of Columbia. They've lost $400 million as a result. Harvard University is about to lose billions. You get UPenn. Everybody's kind of in a similar spot, right? They're losing their funding, their federal funding, their taxpayer funding, because the Trump administration is like, for goodness sakes, you people can't even keep your kids safe that are on this campus. Well, Khalil came to Columbia and decided to create this whole movement to be pro-Hamas. The only problem is Hamas is a known terror organization. So how do you do that? Well, the court now says, guess what? He can be deported. The Louisiana court can send him back. Now his lawyers are jumping in and saying, not so fast, not so fast. Trey Gowdy on Fox saying, yeah, you know what? I don't have a lot of sympathy for this guy, because he can go back there, or he can go back to Gaza. He can do anything he wants. They're not going to actually offer him any kind of human rights in these places. He's not here, keep in mind, on some kind of refugee application. He's here on a student visa. And Marco Rubio has made it really clear, you're here as a guest, so you don't go trying to start protests on university campuses. It's kind of a no-no.
Sliding scale. So American citizens get this much due process. People who are here unlawfully get this much due process. So the phrase due process doesn't really tell us a lot. It's a sliding scale. But it's not lost on me that Khalil supports a group. Do you think they gave a jury trial to the Jews before they beheaded them? You think there are appeals for the hostages being held in Gaza right now? So for someone who had the privilege of living and studying in this country to support a group that doesn't believe in any due process or any appeals for innocent victims is just a little too rich for me. Marco has the power to say you are undermining our foreign policy, and guess what? You don't have a fundamental right to stay in this country. So we don't care whether you go back to Syria or Algeria. You can go to Gaza, what's left of it, but you're not staying here.
Wow. So that kind of lays it out. And don't forget, and I've showed you this, what Marco has said on it. By the way, Rodney making the point that the Trump administration should, and thank you for your generosity, should just tell them to all pound sand. And I think that's kind of what's going on here. They're like, you know what? You're here illegally. You're in a gang. You get deported. Like, sorry, buddy, that's on you. You know what? We're not gonna interfere with El Salvador at this point. That's kind of on you. And maybe that actually serves in a weird way, kind of like a warning to people, like, don't come here, because you run certain risks if you would. Like, you're not going to get any kind of protection from the U.S. government. Meanwhile, as far as the kid on the student visa, forgive me, he's 30 years old. He's about to be a father, and he's going to be deported. Trump has said, gosh, he should have thought of these things, including his family beforehand. But anyway, this is Marco Rubio on how he has every right to revoke this guy's visa, as well as the Turkish girl who's there at Tufts University writing op-eds trying to stir the pot too.
We revoked her visa. It's an F1 visa, I believe. We revoked it, and here's why. And I'll say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay? If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the United States and with that visa participate in that sort of activity, we're going to take away your visa. And once you've lost your visa, you're no longer legally in the United States, and we have a right, like every country in the world has a right, to remove you from our country. So it's just that simple. I think it's crazy. I think it's stupid for any country in the world to welcome people into their country that are going to go to your universities as visitors. They're visitors. And say, I'm going to your universities to start a riot. I'm going to your universities to take over a library and harass people. I don't care what movement you're involved in. Why would any country in the world allow people to come and disrupt? Now, we gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. And if we've given you a visa and then you decide to do that, we're going to take it away. I encourage every country to do that, by the way, because I think it's crazy to invite students into your country that are coming onto your campus and destabilizing it. We're just not going to have it. So we'll revoke your visa, and once your visa is revoked, you're illegally in the country and you have to leave. Every country in the world has a right to decide who comes in as a visitor and who doesn't. If you invite me into your home because you say, I want to come to your house for dinner, and I go to your house and I start putting mud on your couch and spray painting your kitchen, I bet you're going to kick me out. Well, we're going to do the same thing if you come into the United States as a visitor and create a ruckus for us. We don't want it. We don't want it in our country. Go back and do it in your country. But you're not going to do it in our country.
Yeah. And they have the law on their side for this one. 1952, Section 237A. I keep citing this, but I'm going to cite it again because this is an important clause. Quote, any alien who is engaged in, or at any time after admission engages in any activity that the Secretary of State has reasonable grounds to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States is deportable. So you know what? There you have it. That is the law. So why are we twisting the law to make room for people that support a known terror organization? Whether it's a known terror organization or whether it's MS-13 for that matter. Getting back to the guy that Stephen Miller was so concerned about, that he went after the Fox host for. And then he wasn't done. He had more to say to the media. Let me see if I can share this with you. You may have to turn it up just a touch because the audio is rather faint. It was outside and kind of a gaggle, and he made the same point. Like, listen, we're not going to bend the rules for these guys. They're here illegally. They're part of a gang. We ship them back to El Salvador. Whether or not they wind up in the El Salvador prison, that's not our problem.
The wrong person was sent somewhere. He's an illegal alien from El Salvador. Where was he sent? To El Salvador. Where does he belong? In El Salvador.
Right? It's different
he belongs.
Sending someone home and sending them into a prison that they could remain in.
It is up to El Salvador how to handle the process for their own citizens. Again, what you seem to be asking us to do is to change the government and the laws of El Salvador. So if we deport somebody back to, for example, Syria, should we be closely involved on a day-to-day basis with the Syrian government, detailing that person's life and future? If we deport, say, 100,000 people back to Haiti, should we open a case file on each of those 100,000 people and ask every day, what's their housing situation? What's their healthcare situation? What might they need? What might they want? Once someone's out of our country, that becomes the problem of their host country, not our country. These people chose to invade us. So there's a lot of concern from the corporate media about the invaders, but they chose to invade us. It's our responsibility to return them back to
and again, he's not wrong, and he has the law on his side. As for what Bukele in El Salvador is going to do with the guy, he's like, look, he's a gang member. And yes, El Salvador has some pretty harsh consequences for gang members, as we all well know. Let's take a listen to what he just told President Trump.
¿Usted lo liberaría, Presidente Bukele? Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to not suggesting that I'll smuggle terrorists into the United States, right?
It's always
how can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you could release him inside El Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into our country.
There's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
Whoa. Okay. So, that's something. So you heard what Donald Trump just did. He just really slammed the media. He is after the media in a massive way right now. You consider what happened there with 60 Minutes and his frustration with the media over the 60 Minutes piece and what they were saying about him there. And then his frustration with the media saying, hey, we got to do something. We got to make sure that, these criminals that are here illegally and are known members of gangs like MS-13, we cannot be sending them back to El Salvador. And his sort of reaction to that is that's just sick, right? These are sick people that want to keep these people here. I go back to just sort of my shock and my dismay at a media that no matter what Trump does, they hate it, right? No matter. So the market turns around to get to the stock market, and we're going to do this later in the show, but and all of a sudden the media is like accusing him of insider trading because he put out a tweet, or rather a Truth Social, saying, hey, buy it, it's low. And they're accusing him. It's like, what? Did you guys just want it to go down? I think they did. Like, they want the market to go down. They want the bottom to fall out from under. They want bad things to happen because they want to be proven right. And that in and of itself just kind of showcases how frustrating it is to actually deal with the media in any way, shape, or form. As we led this show, right, you have MSNBC getting fined $30 million in that defamation case. And the reason why is because, you know what, they can't see the forest for the trees. This guy apparently had done 2 hysterectomies to help save people's lives, but somehow it turns into he's a uterus robber because he's doing this on behalf of ICE. You see how it's being so convoluted and so messed up, and that is a huge problem with the media today. We have so much to get to, including Alina Habba and new comments that she's making on the governor of New Jersey. But first, remember, we're fully independent here. Balance in Nature is one of our proud sponsors on this program. I take their fruits and veggies every single day. My vitamins, I'm like, when I was a kid, I took the Flintstone vitamins, and now I take my Balance of Nature. They send them to my house. You can get these as well, 35% off right now. I take the fruits and veggies. They're gummies. They're gluten-free, and I love them. They're really tasty, but they have lots of different things for your health. They're on the website. I encourage you to go there. You get 35% off everything if you use my code word TRISH, TRISH. Go to balanceinature.com today.